Welcome to our second edition of Acumatica Commerce Connector demonstration. In our first edition, we covered the BigCommerce integration with Acumatica. Today, we're going to review Shopify, the newest connector that's available with Acumatica Connector. Head out to Shopify website, make sure to grab any of this licensing that works for you, whether it's Advanced Shopify or Shopify Plus. Work with your partner to establish what's right for your business. Once you do have created an account with Shopify, then you could enable in the e-commerce edition from Acumatica the Commerce Connector. So that lets you to create the connector between Shopify and either BigCommerce or the Shopify stores. So let's get started up with regards to enabling the store, and let's see how the data gets synchronized and how all the connector works with Acumatica. So once you do have the commerce workspace enabled with Acumatica licensing, you would go in here and click on Shopify store. So in today's presentation, I've created a new Shopify InfoSourcing demonstration website. So I already established my account with Shopify, and I can use the URL of the website, the credentials, API key, and the password and the shared secret. All of this information is available on the Shopify's setup administration module. So head down to Editor Administration, and you should be able to go into settings section, be able to configure all the APIs, take the information that you have within the Shopify website, and be able to plug that into Acumatica. Once you key in all those credentials, you should be able to do test connection, which establishes the link between Shopify and Acumatica. Now with that said, you can make the website as active. If you have multiple websites, you have the ability to create multiple stores and make either one of them as the default store. So once you establish that, then the next big step that we need to do is look at the entity settings and decide what do you want to sync with Acumatica and how do you want to sync with Shopify and Acumatica. And then also, do you want to do one-way sync versus two-way sync? So there's a lot of capabilities that the connector provides you. Entity settings. So in today's demonstration, what I've done is I've enabled some of the entities that you want to be listed on your website from Acumatica. If you notice here, this section, the stock item, non-stock item, template, and product image are checked. That means I want to take these entities, the data that's there in Acumatica, and export this out to Shopify. The next column that you see is the primary system. So I'm indicating and telling that Acumatica is the primary system or the primary database or the master database that has all the inventory information, and that's been exported out to Shopify. So that's one way of pushing the data from your Acumatica into your Shopify site and managing the entire listing of products. Notice I've not enabled the product availability for a reason. I don't want to update my stock status. So you can decide to activate that, or you can leave that. The second most important thing is the customer. So I enable the customer. As I enable the customer location also gets checked, which is nothing but shipping addresses in Acumatica. If you notice, the sync direction is not export, but instead it is import. So that means I'm going to be importing the customers from Shopify website into Acumatica. So the primary system is external. I have the capability to do bidirectional. If I choose to do bidirectional, then the system will sync data between Acumatica and Shopify always. So that means you could add a customer in Acumatica that will be synced to your e-commerce site. If there's a new customer who comes in to your website and buys a product, then those orders are synced into Acumatica, at which point customers are also created in Acumatica. So depending on your usage, you can decide how you want to sync, import, export, or bidirectional. I kind of call this as single one-way sync or two-way sync. So if you do bidirectional, you're syncing back and forth. So the third most important part is the sales order entity. So when an order is created on your e-commerce store, you would like to import those sales orders into Acumatica. And then with regards to sales order creation, you're obviously going to create it for a customer for a specific product, and then be able to also accept the shipment information and the payment information. So all of these are tied together, which you want to make sure to activate them. Now the last part is the refunds. If you do accept refunds on the website, then you can decide to turn that on. So the entity setting is the first step to decide what do you want to sync, how you want to sync, and how the system should behave. Let's take a look at some of the other tabs that are there for once you establish the entity settings. Then you may want to go into customer settings. Obviously, we are importing the customer from Acumatica, from Shopify site into Acumatica. So based on Acumatica's customer class, auto numbering, location, all of the information has to be created and configured in Acumatica ahead of time to be able to assign those customer and inventory settings, as well as the order settings itself. You may have to configure some of the specific fields where the data is going to come and sit into the system. For instance, what branch do you want to use? In terms of taxes, if you want to have synchronized taxes using Avalara or any other sales tax automation, then you could definitely consider that. You can also do the shipping option mapping, where you're indicating, telling that on your web store, you might call it as domestic shipping or UPS or even free shipping for that matter. If you do on your e-commerce store, you may want to map that into what is the equivalent shipment method you want to use in Acumatica when they create the order. So making sure that you have configured all of this on your e-commerce store as well as in the Acumatica's configuration would really allow you to do this mapping. And the final tab is the payment settings. For this demonstration, if you notice, I have a store payment method called Bogus. So this is something Shopify's demo version of it. So in the demonstration, you can choose Bogus and you can mimic somebody paying credit card information. But if you do go with Shopify payments or any other payment information that Shopify offers, you will be configuring that as well. It also has the ability to do multi-currency. So once you establish all these settings and configure that, you really are now ready to sync data with Acumatica and Shopify. So let's take a look at how my website looks, right? So using Shopify, I have administration module, I have picked a theme, and I've added a few navigation, homepage, the catalog. If I have any blog or any specific landing page, I've uploaded a splash image. I've uploaded some products and synced from the connector from Acumatica into the e-commerce store. I've added some footer section and added some of the newsletter options that are available in the Shopify. So you have your website. Again, all the data is coming from Acumatica. Your template creation, your skinning of the website, the look and feel, and adding any add-ons from the marketplace, from the Shopify itself, all of that, you do that in the Shopify administration module, right? So if you notice here, I have synced few products already ahead of time, the inventory that I have in stock, and then also some customers that I've created, and also with regards to the orders, I've placed some test orders. If you go down to the settings option here, you can configure pretty much everything that you want to do with your website. On the e-commerce store, or from the Acumatica standpoint, we have also done configuration of all these settings. So literally the next step for us to do is to synchronize the data. And how does this really work? So I want to kind of highlight this infographic here, though it says BigCommerce, the BigCommerce and the Shopify and Magento all works the same concept. So in Acumatica, you're going to prepare data first by collecting the data that you want to sync. So it could be the entity, which could be customers, it could be products, product image, availabilities, or even sales order for that matter. So those are the data points, and you're going to prepare the data point in a processing queue. And then once you prepare it, the next step is to process the data. So which then happens is either depending on your synchronization direction, it could synchronize by pushing data to Shopify, or actually pulling data from Shopify and creating that relevant transaction in Acumatica. So this is a two-step process, quite important to understand how the synchronization really works. This allows us to sync not only manually but also do it in real time. So I can set this up on a scheduler basis and say sync all my products once an hour, or synchronize or download all orders from the e-commerce store every 15 minutes once, check to see if there's any order, then I can bring that down. So clicking on the entity itself drills down to the entity settings, wherein I can then come in and say how many failed attempts you want me to keep syncing back and forth, whether do you want to do the real-time sync, and then once you establish that, you also have the ability to do mapping. For instance, if I'm bringing down the sales order information from the Shopify website, then I would like to collect certain data. So if those are your user-defined fields in Acumatica, then you can actually do the mapping. So you can identify what field it is, and it lists all the fields that are there on the sales order screen, and what the object is. In this case, I'm saying when I create an order, I would like to know what the order source is. Where did this order come from? If that was one of my sales order workflow, then I would accept the data and store it in a user-defined field called order source. Similarly, I might have some other fields that I want to collect data. Here I'm trying to say, let's collect the data and say when was the order created. So I can store these two information depending on how you want to collect more data from the store itself. So you can make this kind of import mappings quite helpful for some of the websites where they want to collect custom data. Let's take a look at inventory items and try to sync with Shopify website. Within Acumatica, from the inventory workspace, you have the ability to click on stock items and create new stock items and be able to sync them to Acumatica's Shopify website. Or I can also create template items, which are nothing but the matrix items in Acumatica. Once you have created the matrix items, now you can sync the template and the matrix items to Shopify website. For this demonstration, I'm going to create a new item called Acumatica t-shirt. So I've configured all of the settings ahead of time, the price, the cost, and the attribute configuration. Since it's a matrix item, we are indicating that it comes in two different attributes, the color and the size. So I have configured the segment settings and the description how it should be, and I've also gone ahead and created matrix items, all the child items in the system, along with the e-commerce information that needs to be synced with the Shopify website. If I click on one of the products here, you will see that the matrix item is set up exactly the way I want it. So if you go down to attribute section, I uploaded an image. So obviously you can sync this image from Acumatica to your Shopify website. You can also have the ability to go to Shopify website and assign all the images as well. So if you go down to the last tab, it's the e-commerce section, which also tells me the visibility is visible, or it could be invisible. That means I don't want to list it on the Shopify website. I have the ability to configure some of the SEO settings, attach any media URLs, the product images or product videos, and once you have all of this information, now you can actually go to Acumatica's Commerce Edition Shopify store and then be able to prepare data and then process the data itself. So I'm going to click on prepare data, and then I can select the stock item, and then I'll be able to select the option and say sync now with Acumatica's from the connector all the way to the Shopify. So I'm going to hit prepare. So this will process the one particular entity that we selected. So I'm going to go back to my process data, and here I can again select the entity, which is the stock item. In this case, since you're doing the template item, I'm going to choose the template, and then if you notice here is your Acumatica t-shirt that we really want that to be synced. So I can select the specific product, or I can select all and hit process, or I can just hit process all. So I'm going to go ahead and process this particular product. So I have processed one product that I wanted to list on the Shopify website. It was successful, and if you notice here, It is telling me that I use the store info sourcing demo and entity is template item, and we have synced this product successfully to the website. I also went ahead and actually prepared the template item and then processed the template item entity. So you see that the t-shirt that we are trying to add is already published or posted. So how do I know that? So I can actually go back to commerce and workspace and click on the sync history inquiries. I can see that my product is listed on the website. So by clicking on the external ID, this is the ID that is stored from the Shopify website. So if I click on it, it opens up the Shopify website for that specific product. So here's the product that we literally took from Acumatica and created this automatically through the API into Shopify website. If you notice, it captured all these size and colors automatically for us. We didn't have to touch anything, we didn't have to key anything. All of this was listed. It is giving you a preview of how it's going to look from the SEO's point of view. It's calculated. I took forward all my price information as well. The only thing that the image hasn't come up is because we haven't synced the product image yet from our entities. So if you go down to entities, you will notice that I can select product image entity and then be able to sync this with Acumatica. So if we do that, then the product images also can be synced. After you sync your products, you would do the product image sync, and then you will also do the product availability sync to be able to sync the stock status as well. So let me head back here into the prepared data and select the product image itself. So I'm going to prepare it. I guess I said before, it's a two-step process. You would prepare all the data into the processing queue, and then you process the data that you have. So if you notice here, it was 0 and 5. Now prepared is 1 because we do have one product that we want to sync or at least push it out to the data to Shopify website. So I'm going to go to process data and select this particular product, which is the one that I want to sync now to Shopify website. So if I hit process, it gets listed. So now let's go back to the sync history and take a look at the history that was synced. So I'm going to go back again and select, in this case, product image, and go to all records. That will help. So if we go back to all records, of course it has different filters. You can see what was pending and or what was failed or what was synchronized. So obviously going to all records gives me that. So if I actually click on the external ID again, now you should see that particular product image, the t-shirt image, uploaded to Shopify website. There you go. All right, so that's how you sync the data between Acumatica and Shopify. So if I actually go back to my store and click on the catalog information, then I do have the particular product. So I'm going to click on it to see it. Everything looks great. It also has the ability to upload multiple images per product. I have done another product that I would like to show how that works. So if we go down to this Gildan t-shirt, you will notice that it has multiple colors. As I navigate to different colors, it has the ability to say whether you have it in stock or you don't have it in stock. I'm going to choose blue in this case. Then it automatically changes the color of the t-shirt as well. I can also select the different sizes. Based on the availability, I should be able to add to cart. So I'm going to do that here, and I'm going to also go back and add the new item that we just published. So I'm going to choose that as well and add to cart. So now I'm going to go back to my shopping cart. I do have two products, $84, great. Any instructions? I can specify the nodes and hit checkout. Now based on the shipping settings and payment settings, however you configured your checkout process, obviously it's demo here, so I'm going to continue to use a fake credit card and also the information that I want to ship, and I will place an order from the Shopify website. So what I've done here is I've entered the shipping address, I've chosen the shipping method and the payment information, and I'm one step closer in creating the order. So I'm going to hit pay now, which is then going to create the order in Shopify website. So once the order is created, then I have the ability to now go and sync this information into Acumatica. So here I am going to prepare data. So again, all of this I'm doing it manually. You don't have to do that. You can have the ability to create, add, and schedule and say run this every hour or every 15 minutes or whatever the frequency you would like to run. You have the ability to do what I call this is an autopilot. You create a schedule, set it up, you set the condition when you want to run it and how often you want to run it, daily and whether it's every hour. You could do that once you configure this. This is again Acumatica's standard schedule process. So for this demonstration, I'm going to choose now the sales order, and I'm going to say prepare this, and I want to see how many orders it can pull down from the Shopify store into Acumatica. So if you notice here, it prepared 3 records. Great. So I'm going to go into process data. At this point, when I do that, it is going to create sales orders in Acumatica based on the settings that we had set up for the Shopify store. So I'm going to choose that. If you notice here, I already have few, so I'm just going to go ahead, select it, and hit process. All right, so I do have processed one of the sales orders that I created, so I'm going to hit close here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into sales order and click on the transactions to see all the sales orders that are created in the system manually or through the e-commerce store. So if you notice here, I do have that sales order that was created on the Shopify website. So I'm going to click on that, and it takes me to my sales order screen. I do see the product that I purchased on the website, the Acumatica t-shirt, and then other t-shirt that I really purchased that at $59.95. Total is $89.94. That looks great. So I'm going to just minimize like this and be able to look at my financial settings. It has brought that, the shipping settings, it's brought the shipping information as well. So if there's any discounts, promo codes, anything of that sort can be applied on the store. It'll also carry forward into the system. So if you look down the payment information, you can also bring down the payments. Is one of the entities that you can sync and get the payment information also onto the sales order. Notice here I have the user defined fields where I was able to say, every time an order comes in from the e-commerce store, make the order source as commerce website, and also set the date as today's date. So you have the ability to capture custom data that's coming in from the e-commerce store into the Shopify store. So there you have it, the order synchronization and the product synchronization that I've created. Obviously, you can also create different order types. You can create the different order types in Acumatica as EO instead of SO being sales order, and you'll be able to manage and process and ship this good particular product out. And once you do ship it out, then you go back to your Shopify store and enable those entities that we talked about, which is the shipment information, the payment information, and then that will automatically sync back and forth depending on your sync direction and update the tracking information to Shopify store. So that is a quick overview in terms of how Acumatica Connector, the new connector Shopify, works with Acumatica Cloud ERP and your Shopify integration itself. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. Thanks again for watching this video.